The church door stood open, but the bride was gone. Elias stood in front of the small crowd with his wedding coat still buttoned and his boots covered in dust. The preacher held the Bible in both hands and looked at him with worry. Mara's chair was empty. Her white dress was hanging inside her little house across the road. Her wedding ring sat on the kitchen table. Her horse was tied outside, shaking and breathing hard. Someone in the crowd whispered, "She ran away." Another man laughed softly. Elias did something no one expected. He smiled. Then he walked out of the church, climbed onto his horse, and rode straight toward Mara's house. People stared. "Has the man lost his mind?" someone asked. Elias did not answer. He pushed open the wooden door. The house was quiet. A cup of coffee sat cold beside the stove. A small loaf of bread rested on the table. Mara's blue shawl was gone, but one thin piece of blue cloth was caught on a nail near the door. Elias touched it. His face changed. He walked outside and looked at the horse. The animal had foam around its mouth. Elias bent near its legs. There were deep marks in the dirt. The horse had not walked home calmly. Someone had ridden it hard. He followed the marks behind the house. They stopped near a thorn bush. Elias found another piece of Mara's blue cloth there. His hand closed around it. "She didn't leave me," he said quietly. An old rancher standing nearby shook his head. "Boy, sometimes a woman changes her mind." Elias looked at him. "Mara would have told me." No one laughed now. He walked back into the house and opened a wooden chest. He took out his rifle, a box of bullets, a water bag, and a small blanket. Then he placed Mara's cloth inside his coat. The preacher came to the doorway. "Where are you going?" Elias looked toward the dark hills beyond Red Creek. "To find my wife." "You don't even know where she is." Elias climbed into the saddle. "Then I'll keep riding until I know." The horse turned west. Behind him, the church bell rang once. Elias did not look back. The sun was falling behind the hills, and the open land ahead was already turning dark. Somewhere beyond those hills, Mara was alone. And Elias was riding into the wilderness to find her. For 3 days, Elias rode without seeing another soul. The land became harder with every mile. The green grass disappeared. Dry sand covered the trail and sharp rocks cut his horse's feet. The hot sun burned his face during the day, while the cold wind shook him at night. Still, Elias kept riding. Each morning, he looked at the ground for signs. A hoof mark, a broken branch, a piece of cloth, anything that could lead him to Mara. On the 4th morning, he found fresh horse tracks near a dry riverbed. Elias jumped from his saddle and touched one of the marks. It was still clear in the soft dirt. "You're close," he whispered. He followed the tracks until he reached a small camp hidden between the rocks. An old trapper sat beside a weak fire, cleaning a rabbit. The man slowly raised his eyes. "You looking for someone?" Elias showed him the blue piece of cloth. "My wife." The trapper studied the cloth. "I saw a woman 2 nights ago." Elias stepped closer. "Where?" The old man pointed toward the dark mountains. "Black Pine Valley." "Was she alone?" The trapper stopped cleaning the rabbit. "No." Elias' hand moved toward his rifle. "Who was with her?" "3 men." The fire cracked between them. "Did they hurt her?" "I don't know," the trapper said, "but she looked scared." Elias thanked him and climbed back onto his horse. He rode until the sky turned orange. That night he made a small fire beneath a rock wall. He ate almost nothing. He kept Mara's cloth in his hand. Then he heard something. A horse. Elias quickly covered his fire with dirt. He lay flat behind the rocks. Two riders passed in the darkness. One of them said, "The girl can't be far." Elias held his breath. The riders disappeared into the trees. He waited several minutes before moving. Now he knew the truth. Mara was not lost. Someone was looking for her. And if those men found her first, Elias might never see his bride again. At sunrise, he rode toward Black Pine Valley. The mountains rose higher with every mile. Near the valley entrance, his horse suddenly stopped. Something silver lay in the dirt. Elias climbed down. It was Mara's necklace. His heart began to pound. He looked into the dark valley. For the first time, he wondered if he was too late. Elias moved slowly through the trees, holding his rifle close to his chest. The valley was silent. Too silent. He had found Mara's necklace only minutes earlier, and now every sound made his heart beat faster. A bird flew from a tree. A branch cracked under his boot. He stopped and listened. Then he heard it. A soft cry. Elias turned toward the sound. "Mara!" No answer came. He walked deeper into the trees. Another weak cry reached him. He pushed past a thick bush and stopped. Mara was sitting beside a large gray rock. Her dress was torn. Dirt covered her face. Her hair was tangled and her hands were shaking. She looked thin and tired, as if she had not eaten for days. Elias dropped his rifle and ran to her. "Mara!" She looked up. "Elias!" He fell to his knees and pulled her into his arms. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. Mara cried against his shoulder. "I knew you would come," she whispered. "I told you I would find you." Elias gave her water. She drank slowly, then held the cup with both hands. He looked at her torn dress. "Who did this?" Mara looked toward the trees. "Men." Elias' face became hard. "How many?" "3." She told him they had stopped her on the road before the wedding. They had taken her horse and forced her into the forest. They wanted to know where Elias kept the money from his cattle sales. "I told them nothing," she said. "How did you escape?" They fought among themselves. One man left the camp, the other two fell asleep. I ran. Elias looked around the valley. "How long have you been here?" 4 days. His eyes filled with fear. "You stayed here alone?" Mara nodded. "I thought I would die." Elias held her hand. "You are going home now." Then a loud gunshot broke the silence. A tree behind them exploded into pieces. Mara screamed. Elias grabbed her and pulled her behind the rock. Another shot struck the ground. "They found us," Mara whispered. Elias looked toward the ridge. 3 dark shapes moved between the trees. He picked up his rifle. "Stay down." Mara grabbed his arm. "Elias, there are 3 of them." He looked at her. "I know." Another gunshot echoed through the valley. Elias tightened his grip on the rifle. They had found Mara. Now they had to survive the night. Elias waited until the gunshots stopped. The valley became quiet again. He looked at Mara. She was weak, but she was standing. "We have to leave now," he whispered. Elias helped her onto his horse. He climbed behind her and pulled the reins. The horse ran into the dark forest. Behind them, another gunshot broke the night. The 3 men were coming. Elias rode hard between the trees. Low branches hit his shoulders. Mara held tightly to him as the horse raced down the narrow trail. "Don't stop," Elias shouted. The horse jumped over a fallen tree. Behind them, the men shouted. One rider was getting closer. Elias looked back. A gunman raised his rifle. Elias pulled Mara down just as the shot passed over their heads. They reached a fast river. The water was black under the moon. "We have to cross," Elias said. Mara looked at the water. "It's too deep. We don't have another way." Elias kicked the horse forward. The horse stepped into the cold river. Water rose around its legs, then its chest. Mara held Elias' arm. For one terrible moment, the horse lost its balance. Elias grabbed the saddle and pulled Mara close. Then the horse found the ground again. They reached the other side. Elias did not slow down. Hours later, they found an old abandoned mine. He led the horse inside and helped Mara down. They stood in complete darkness. The riders passed outside. One man shouted, "They can't be far." Mara covered her mouth to stop herself from crying. Elias held one finger against his lips. They waited. Minutes passed. Then the voices disappeared. At sunrise, Elias and Mara left the mine. Far ahead, they saw a group of travelers on the old trading road. Elias raised his hand. The travelers stopped and helped them. By the next morning, the sheriff and several ranchers had caught the three men. When Elias and Mara returned to Red Creek, the town was waiting. The same church where Mara had vanished was filled with people. But Elias did not take her inside. He held her hand and walked with her toward the old oak tree beside the ranch. Weeks later, they married there. There was no great crowd. No fancy music. Only a few friends, the warm sunset, and the sound of the wind moving through the grass. Elias looked at Mara and smiled. He had ridden many miles to find her. Now she was finally home,